So, but let's talk about the exam, right? So the California Insurance Licensing Exam, and I know this doesn't pertain to you, Annie, but I'm sure it's very similar as far as what to expect.
Okay.
This is a copy of what it looks like once you get your insurance license. I did take out the license number and the name. This happens to be my license. In California, you can take your exam two different ways. You can either take it remote testing and then convenience of your own home, or you can go on site and take your exam. If you do remote testing, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to adhere to. Is everybody here doing it on site? Anyone doing it remotely? Everybody's doing on site? Okay, cool. So we don't have to go on, we won't cover the remote testing piece, but here's a quick checklist. You can do a screenshot of this if you'd like. Make sure that confirmation email, this is part of, once you register for your exam, they're going to send you, they send you a confirmation email. What I want to remind you is that you don't have to have it with you. I can't tell you how many times I get a text or a call from a student who says, I don't have my confirmation email, I wasn't able to print it, or their printer's stuck. You know what? We're in a tech world. We're in a more paperless, we're moving toward a more paperless society. As long as you have confirmation on your phone and it outlines exactly like, this is, you're at the right place, you're at the right time, and you're taking the right exam. As long as you have that, you're fine. Just remember that when you go in to take your exam, you've got to turn your cell phone off. Do not silence it. Do not put it on airplane mode. Make sure it's turned off. Power it off. This is such an electronic leash and a safety for people that they're afraid to turn their cell phones off. You got to turn it off. If you don't turn it off, then if it beeps or makes a sound, what happens is that they're going to try to figure out which phone that came from. And if it's your phone, they're going to kick you out of the exam. And then you have to.
Here you can take the phone. They put it in a lock for you.
Yeah, it's different. Usually they give you a locker and you can put your stuff in there, or they hold it for you. Each sensor is a little bit slightly different with respects to that. The one thing that you must, and I cannot emphasize this enough, I am like the worst person when it comes to this, because I will, if I go somewhere and I need my ID, and I only need my ID in a credit card, for example, then I'll put it in my pocket, and then I don't even know where my ID is a week later. So make sure you have valid picture ID, okay? Because it will not let you take the exam without valid picture ID. Now, this is not an issue for men, usually for women, and that is that your valid picture ID has to match your name. If they don't match, they will not let you take the exam. So make sure you have valid picture ID. So notice, Celia, we're setting you up, right, for what you need to know. So if for any reason you lost your ID, or you don't even know where it is because you've been home through this entire pandemic, then at least you have like the next 2 to 3 weeks to go get some sort of valid picture ID. If you don't have a valid picture ID, passport will work. Any government issue type of identification will work in order for you to take your exam. Here's the next thing. This is no joke. No hoodies. Nothing with pockets on your shirts, no hats, of course, no watches, none of those things. You just want to go in with like just a t-shirt, no pockets. You can wear a light sweater, just make sure it doesn't have any pockets in it, right? So they will ask you to take the hoodie off. They will tell you to remove your watch and all that other stuff. And the other thing, and I say this because this could have happened to me. We had a student probably like 3 years ago now, and she was taking her exam. When you arrive to the test center and you check in, they're going to give you a computer number. And when they give you that computer number, I tell all my students, I want you to tell the proctor, yay, that's my lucky number. I'm hoping that at some point it's going to get back to the Department of Insurance that these people are weird. They're saying this is my lucky number. They're noticing a trend. So please let them know this is my lucky number. Be all excited to take your exam, because there's something about nerves and excitement. Physiologically, the body, being nervous and excited actually are the same. It's just the label that you give it. So people who have test anxiety, if you have test anxiety, if you identify with that, my recommendation or my invitation to you is that, hey, no, that's not nerves, that's excitement. You're excited about the exam, right? Because the body doesn't know the difference until you label it. So you go in, they give you your computer number, you go in front of your computer, and there's a tutorial. There's a tutorial that will show you like how the whole system works. And then what happens is that you're going to sign like an affidavit agreeing. These are the agreements for taking. They don't say it like this, but there are some agreements that you basically agree to when you're taking your exam. And one of those agreements is that you're not going to talk to anyone while your exam is in session. So with that agreement, if you take a break to use the washroom because they allow you to do that, then you go to down the hall to use the washroom. If you talk to someone during that time, they will basically fail you and you'll have to they'll anyways, let me tell you what happened to the student. It's much better as a story. She goes for bathroom break and she runs in, no joke, she runs into a student that was in her class, in our pre-licensing class together. And she said hello to him. His wife was with him. They greet each other, they chat for a moment, and she goes to use the washroom, comes back, and the proctor says, okay, we've checked you out of your exam. You need to reschedule. And she says, okay. She was confused. She didn't know why. She just thought, okay, this is normal. A week goes by. She's not able to reschedule her exam. 2 weeks go by. She's still not, for some reason, they won't let her reschedule her exam. And she gets a letter from the Department of Insurance. And the letter says that she has a 5-year administrative ban. She's prohibited from taking the exam for 5 years. It's called an administrative ban, and basically because she violated the rules of the test, and she put herself in a compromising position that makes it look like she might be cheating or sharing questions on the exam. So do not talk to anybody. And again, the reason I bring that up because that could have happened to me. I'm a very social butterfly. If I got up to use the washroom and ran into somebody I know, I would probably give them a hug. I mean, maybe not during the pandemic, but I'd probably give them a hug. And then there we go. There's my test. There's my career. And the reason I share it as well is because you know what? She had quit a 6-figure job the week before my class.
Oh,
Only to not be able to get into this industry because she wasn't able to get a license because she had a conversation with someone down the hall. So again, it's no, follow the rules. I grew up in a culture where you didn't take breaks when you took an exam, which is so weird to me that you can take a bathroom break. So again, I mean, I can't imagine myself getting up to take a break while I'm testing. I think I'd be more nervous doing that, right? So
Yeah.
again, it's upbringing. So everybody has a different experience with test taking. So if you are the person who has, and I'm not kidding, there are people who have, a diagnosed ADD or ADHD. And if you're one of those individuals, I want to remind you to make sure you take your medication. And the other thing is that, yes, take a break. It's a strategy. If I wasn't so conditioned to not take a break while testing and I didn't get nervous, you know what I mean? I mean, I would get nervous if I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of a test and I went, I would really get anxious about it. But if I grew up in a culture where the strategy is, or that I could take a break in the middle of an exam, I encourage people to take it. Like put it in your head halfway through 80 questions in, you're going to take your little break and then you're going to kind of come back and do the second half. I literally go like this. I'm test taking and I'm like literally sliding down my chair. By the end of the exam, I'm bored. I have a headache and I'm like done. I don't have the attention span to sit there for 155, 160 question exam. So I'm really lucky that I can go through these. Everything I teach, I use. So I'm able to get through an exam really, really quickly. And most of my students, if I don't know, we don't have the data for online students because we don't get that kind of feedback from our students. But in the classroom training, I've taught for 4.5 days, and generally my students will take their exam on Friday afternoon and they will come back in less than an hour. They will finish their 150, 160 question exam in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Because you're prepared, boom, 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 you're going to go right through the exam. If you're not prepared, or you start getting in your head, or you start getting in your own way, it's going to take you way longer to take the exam. And time is a tell. If I had students, because I would wait for them after sending them off to take their exam, if they took more than 2 hours, I would get worried, unless their English is a second language. Why? Because that means they're thinking too much about it. All right. We don't need to go over this simply because, nobody's doing remote testing. Now, of course, this is going to be in half, right? For Max, you're doing the life only. So you're not doing a 100, you're doing an 80 question exam, I believe is what you're taking. And it's 60% out of 75. So regardless of whether you're taking the 75 question exam or the 150 question exam, the extra questions they give you above the 150 or the extra questions they give you above the 75, they will always score on the 75 or they will always score on the 150. those extra questions they give you, they're just going to throw them out. They're not going to be used against you, nor will they'll be used in your favor. A passing score is 60%,
I
and
wish.
people take that for granted. They think like, oh, 60%, that's not much. That's just above half, right? And you can miss a third of the exam. That's a lot to miss, is a third of the exam. But yet people are still not passing. So don't take it for granted that the passing score is so low. Oops, let's see. This is the breakdown of the exam, right? So for the life accident, this is for all of you with the exception of Annie and Max. So you get 40 questions on general insurance, 45 on medical expense plans, 4 on disability income, 4 long-term care, 4 accident and health, 49 life insurance, 4 life policy riders, which leaves you to 150. I don't have the breakdown for you, Max, but what they're going to test you in for the life exam only is they're going to test you in 3 areas, and that is general insurance, life insurance, and life policy riders. They're going to test in those 3 areas. And generally, most students who have a hard time passing the exam, it's really funny because, you need 60%. So if you don't pass the exam, that means you're weak in all areas. But the one area that we notice that students have the lowest scores on is general insurance. For some reason, the general insurance is the area, and the general insurance includes code and ethics. So it kind of makes a little bit of sense there too. So just so that you're aware, it doesn't like pull out the code and ethics as a separate section. Like, we're going to give you this many questions on code and ethics. The code and ethics section is part of the general insurance, and that's true for all of the exams.
Do you have the breakdown for health? No.
Well, the breakdown for health would be, yeah, it's right here. Now, I don't know for your exam, Annie, I'd have to go to the Department of Insurance in Florida and look it up.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, because I couldn't find it, because here it's 70, not 60, but
yeah, you
I
guys are
thought-
70. Yeah, I looked up, but when you were in my class, I did look you guys, I looked up the state of Florida stuff, and it is 70% to pass in Florida.
yeah.
And but I'll get you this before our class on before you come to my class.
Thank you.
Okay. But for California, this is the breakdown. And
Okay.
if you notice, the exam is really testing you in 3 areas for the full exam, right? General insurance, accident and health, and then life insurance. And if we break it down even further, you get a total of 57 questions for accident and health, and you get a total of 53 questions for life insurance. So the exam is slightly skewed in favor of the accident and health exam, which is actually really good because most students do better in accident and health than they do in life insurance. I don't know why. I suspect it's because you have experience in it. Like, you've been to the doctor, you have health insurance. Everyone has to have health insurance. So you have some sort of experience with that. This is the more specific breakdown. So this will outline the questions and the areas they're going to test you on, Max, if you want to do a screenshot of this, because the life only exam, this is the breakdown of your questions, right? So they're going to ask you 9 on insurance concepts and principles, 6 on contract law, 7 on insurance marketplace. You need to know 10 on the different, they're going to test you on the types of policies, which is 10 questions, annuities, life insurance contracts, taxation, and so on. You have your exam on Monday. So I would just focus on the playbook. Just study the questions and answers on the playbook. Okay. Did you get
How
the
do I
playbook, Matt?
take it? I should be getting it today. They sent it out yesterday.
Okay.
Or yesterday or the day before, so I should be getting it at some point today. I don't really get my mail till like 2 p.m.
Okay. All right. Well, then you'll be in class.
I'll have it the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, then we can figure that out from there. For the life accident health, though, these, again, you're going to look at the entire table because of the way that I broke it up, right? You get 40 on general life insurance. You'll get a total of 16 on basic insurance concepts and principles, 10 on contract law. So you don't need to know this. I think it'll be helpful for Max because his exam is just around the corner. But for the rest of you, you're going to be with me for 2 weeks. And the 2 weeks that you're with me, we're going to cover all of this. It's my job to know that. You don't need to know that. You just need to focus your attention on reading the playbook. Got it? But if Max doesn't know the life insurance policies, if he doesn't know do you know what a family policy is?
I mean,
Oh,
I
you took too
would.
long. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
I would if it was like I just need to be like fairly refreshed on everything.
Okay,
But I
you
did
need to be
study
prompted. prompted with some
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So you'll get a little bit of that today, but we'll again, we'll give you that assessment, and the assessment is for the benefit of those taking their test on Monday, right? So I know Kristen, you'll benefit from it. Max, you'll definitely benefit from it, and it'll give me an idea of where you're at. I know you're only doing the life only. I don't have a, oh, actually, you know what? I do have a life only exam. That would be a good one. Actually, let's do that one. How are you, Kristen? Is which one do you think is your strength, life or health? Or yeah, health is more of your strength, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
So we'll do the life only, and it's a shorter exam. It's not 150, it's like 80 or something like that. So we'll do the 80 questions for the break, this first break segment. And you don't have to do it because you're doing accident and health. So
So what time you want me to, you're gonna do it now?
no, we're gonna do it later.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you when. I'll keep track of you. I got you. I got you. We don't need to know about this one because we're not a PNC class. This is a tutorial that I would normally go through. Because most of you, Kristen, you've already seen this. You saw this the last cram course. Max, you've already seen this. Why? Because you've already taken the exam with PSI. And then the rest of you are going to take your exam in a couple of weeks. And so we'll go over the tutorial for your exam later. All right. But the tutorial just basically gives you an idea of what the screen looks like, what to expect. It gives you like a time clock. It tells you how many questions you've completed, how many questions you have left, that you can mark a question, and so on. Oh, Xavier, you've taken your exam already, yes?
Yeah, I've taken it once. No, I've taken it twice already.
Okay. Well, can you share? Do you mind sharing your scores?
They weren't good. Hold on, I'll actually grab them for you. Give me 1 second, because I have to folder that it's in. Or no, this not this folder, it's this one. I think like the first time I took it was in February, and it was at the Walnut Creek location.
Okay.
Let me see. The first test I took only passed with, is that the first one? 316. Yeah. The first one only passed. I got right at 50%.
50%. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're not giving you percentages anymore, by the way. They just changed that.
Mhm.
When they went
Yeah,
remote
and
testing.
they send it to you in your email now. They don't even give you a printout anymore. They
Right.
just send it to your email.
So I'm really glad that I asked you because it's they tell you if you pass or I don't like to say the F word. They tell you if you pass
Yeah.
or fail on site. But your results where they break it down, that gets emailed to you. And that gets emailed to you within what, 24 to 48 hours or something like that?
No, mine came within like an hour
You
after
got
I
it that
left.
fast?
Yeah.
Here
Man,
they give it to you. Here when you finish the exam, they
Uh-huh.
give it to you, the breakdown with all your scores right
yeah,
away.
they used to do that here, but when they
Yeah.
went to remote testing and they added that, they don't do that anymore. Now they
Oh,
email
really?
you the results. Yeah, it's pass fail, and then they email you the results with the specifics of it. But you
Oh,
don't need to know the specifics. You know why? Because you're all going to pass. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not tripping
it doesn't
it.
so here's some resources for you if you have any questions. You can contact us by email, either registration at quick-learn. We're one big company, but we're actually two separate entities. It's kind of interesting. It's a family-owned business. I basically run and own the Concord location, and then my parents run and own the San Jose location. So you are all registered with Concord, so this is our email address, and then this is our office phone number. The San Jose, though, they're bigger and they have extended hours that we don't have or offer. So you can contact either one of us. You just let them know you're a Concord student, and they'll be happy to help you. So, but the ones where you will get access or gain access to Hunter and any questions you might have are the ones where I check mark and then the circle one. All right, just so that you have that. You can do a screenshot of that if you need that. But let's move on to the thing that I love the most as far as teaching this class, and that's the test taking strategies. So we went over like what to expect when you take your exam, but the other piece, it's probably more important than all of the other ones, is the test taking strategies. Is that the video that you saw? Did you see it's not even a video, it's an audio. Xavier, was that the test taking strategy one?
Um, yeah, I watched all of them on YouTube. I watched all of them on Facebook. So I did a little research on you before I actually went on ahead and talked to Hunter. So I was like, let me do the research, and then I seen it, and then I was just like, it just took me back to high school because I went through a lot of stuff in high school when I was in high school over 5 years ago. So like I went through that, and it was more I do better in a teaching place, and when I have a teacher that cares about me and actually wants to sit there and explain everything and wants to go over everything, I do 10 times better. And
Nice.
and when I heard you talking and everything, I just felt that from you, and I felt that home. So I was just like, yeah, I just need to deal with her so I can pass it and get over it.
Thank you. That's sweet. All right, I'm gonna try to move this bar here. I don't really know how to do this. Gosh dang it. That's fine. Oh, there we go. I figured it out. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's go over this PowerPoint here, and this is the test taking strategy. So let me go back for a second. Yeah, so and I think the message here is you got this. I think it's a little cliche these days, but you got this. This exam is it's easy when you prepare and you do your part, right? So passing the exam is not just about knowing the material or the content. And I really want you to walk away from that, because it's important to understand that, everything's a test really. And if with the right mindset, even if you don't know the answer, you can deduce the answer. You can figure it out. And when you employ all of these test strategies, not only they're test strategies, but they're also life strategies that will help you pass any exam. And I mean exam in life, exam on paper, on computer, whatever you're dealing with. These strategies will help you overcome that and be better for that too. So the best practice is to pass the licensing exam the first time. We have a unique approach. We have a 3 kind of pillar approach to preparing someone to take the exam. So we have the 3 approaches that we use is mindset, which is this picture right here, right? Oops, darn it. Let me go back. We have our mindset, test strategies, and then knowing the content and the material. So today we're going to focus throughout our day. I will use language that will hopefully, and my intention is to influence your mindset. The other piece though that we were going to focus our attention on this morning is test taking strategies. And then after this morning segment, we're going to focus all of our attention on content, at the same time demonstrating and illustrating the different test strategies, and also tuning our attention and focusing in on the mindset to let you know that you can pass the exam the first time once you employ all of these different practices. So the test strategies that we're going to cover include being prepared, which you're doing now. Yay. Make sure you have a positive attitude, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And of course, the one that is true and dear to me is to breathe, and making sure that you breathe. Building confidence. We have this thing that we say called no parking allowed. I'll elaborate on more about what that means. Another one is words mean what they say. Yes, they literally mean what they say. And when we take an accelerated learning approach to things, you want to keep that in mind, is that oftentimes we add more meaning to things that don't mean that. Like we put our interpretation on what they're asking us instead of taking it for face value. So we'll talk more about that when we get to that slide. Break down long questions. Oftentimes when people see like a really long question, they get a little bit intimidated, like, oh, that's too many words. And then you read from the top down and you're like, oh, I forgot what I read. So we'll talk about that. And you're like, well, I just read the question, but I forgot everything else. Well, you don't have to worry about that. Always stick with your first response. This is an important one. You got to trust your intuition. Life is like this, test taking is like this, right? How many times in your life have you gone against your intuition only to like not have it work out the way that you wanted it to, or thought that it could have had you followed your intuition? So learning happens unconsciously. Your first answer oftentimes is the right answer. Now you're going to hear me say that again. Why? Because repetition is the mother of all learning. And if you know anything about me, I'm very repetitious. Let's see. Accept questions. We'll talk about accept questions. Accept questions. We've gotten feedback from students that about 35 to 45 questions are accept. Accept and which of the following is not correct, when you see the word not in the question and accept, are very counterintuitive. I've had students who know the content, and then when I evaluate them and I give them a test to assess them, what I discover is that they know the content, but guess what? They're not paying attention to the accept. So when you don't pay attention to the accept, you're going to pay with missing the question. That's a way big high. That's a high price to pay if you're close to passing, if that makes any sense. So you got to pay attention, and I'll talk about how to handle accept questions. And then when all else, doesn't work, or you have no idea what the answer is, always make an educated guess. and you make an educated guess by using the process of elimination. You know, one of the things that, you know, if you know anything about me, I really want us to change our education system. That's like an affinity type of project that I'm working on. And one of the things that I notice in the classroom is that the younger people, not all young people, but a lot of the younger people have a hard time of putting 1 + 1 is 2. And I don't mean it in a literal sense. I mean it more in a figurative sense, in that we bring them down this line of logic, and then the logic in their mind, they don't get it. And so there is a way of noticing patterns. There is a way of looking at things and figuring things out without really knowing what they are. And one of my teachers, he's not like, I don't know him personally. I've met him and I'm a little intimidated to get a photo with him. I'm a huge fan. I got a little bit of a crush on him. And my friends are like, he's not even that good looking. I'm like, I don't care. He's like smart. And his name is Chip Conley. And so he wrote a book called, oh my goodness. I listened to the audio earlier this year, or last year. It's like The Elder or something like that. Anyways, this guy revolutionized the hotel business. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He had like this chain of hotels called Joy de Vries or something like that. And then he was hired on by the guys over at Airbnb to come in and basically help them. And one of the things that he noticed is that he came in to help them, but they helped him too. And when we're looking, this is the first time in history where we have 5 generations in the workplace, 5 generations in the workplace. And what I love about what he said is that the elder wisdom, right? And then we have emotional intelligence. Not that I'm an elder, but I'm getting close to that. And then the younger generations have digital intelligence. And that there's this relationship that we need to foster between these generations of teaching each other, and that one doesn't know more than the other, but that the younger generation has this in digital, the DQ, the digital intelligence that we need to learn. And then the older ones have the emotional intelligence, and we see patterns. So we see things that the younger people don't see, and that we really need to come from a place of like teaching each other. And so I say this and I raise awareness to it, is that there is a way of noticing patterns. There is a way of looking at things and paying attention in order to be able to deduce what the right answer is. And this is true not only in taking an exam, but it's also true in life. All right. So be prepared. There's no way around this. Okay. I'm telling you, if you don't prepare, it's going to be hard. It's going to show up as hard when you don't prepare. So you got to study, you got to do your part. And I usually talk about a story where my sister calls me on a Friday night. This was back in 2007, so this was a while ago. And she says, hey, Irma, do you want to run a half marathon for your birthday? And she says, it's the rock and roll half marathon in San Jose. You're going to love it. I love music. I love singing. So of course, she says there's a band at every mile. And I'm super excited. Why wouldn't I want to run 13.1 miles if there's a band at every mile? Well, unbeknownst to me, 13.1 miles is a long run. And I think the furthest at that point I had run in high school, like 12 miles. I was on the cross country team and on the track team, but I've never ran 13.1 miles in my life. But I told myself, so this was Friday night, Saturday all day. I was kind of anguishing a little bit about it. And I was getting my mindset for Sunday morning, which was the very next day. And I kept telling myself, you know what? I swim twice a week. I go to ballet classes twice a week. I may not be physically fit, but I'm mentally fit and I can totally do this. And my only goal was to finish the race. That was it. And what better person than to run a race than with my sister, who is an ultra marathon runner, who is 5 months pregnant at the time and who's going to run with me the whole way. So I got really excited about it. But I can tell you this, it hurt. I have 3 sisters, by the way. So I have another sister who says, okay, Irma, if we're going to do the Nike half marathon, this was a year later, then we have to prepare. We're going to meet at this track that she likes. And we met twice a week. And then I was supposed to do, which I really didn't, but I did sometimes, do my long runs on the weekend. And that one was a much more positive experience. I mean, San Francisco is all hills, and that's where the San Francisco Nike half marathon was, right? It's crazy. Like Mile 10 is like the one that like really kicks your butt. It is by the Presidio. And so I have to tell you, the experience and the contrast between the two, when you prepare and you do things in advance and you have like more than a weekend, then you're gonna show up different. The experience is gonna be different and your body's gonna feel good. You're gonna feel good and you're gonna get the kind of success that you want, right? You've got to put the time aside. So reading the playbook, putting your attention to the questions and answers and reading them the way that we teach you is going to train you to pass your exam. Because reading a book about running isn't necessarily going to prepare you to run a race. You've got to put the miles in. So all of the pre-licensing, everything that you read, all of the content is one piece of it. The part that's really going to help you pass the exam and get you over that edge is going to be reading the playbook, training your mind by reading questions and answers, and training yourself to read a question and immediately look for the right answer. That's how we want you to study the playbook, is you read the question and you only tune your attention to the right answer. Are you going to read the wrong answers, Annie?
No,
No. Why? Why bother? You don't need to know that,
no.
right? You
Get
only need-
confused. I don't want to get confused. I read the right answers and I'm good to go.
That's right. You're good to go. One quick story about that. How does the CIA train their agents to identify counterfeit money?
Showing them the right.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is, how does the CIA train their agents to identify counterfeit money?
They show them only the real one.
That's right. They only study the right money. They focus their attention on the right money. They know the details of the right money, right? They know the contrast of the color, the border, you know, the eagle has like 13 arrows on one claw and then like 13, arrows, feathers on the other one, right? They know all the details of only the right money. When the wrong money shows up, do they know why it's wrong? They don't. Do they need to know why it's wrong?
Not why. They
No.
just
They just know. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter because they only need to know, right? By focusing your attention on only the right money, then you know when the counterfeit shows up. And it doesn't matter why it's counterfeit. You just know it's not the right money. So we want you to tune your attention to focus on the right answer. It's the same strategy, the same philosophy. All right, positive attitude. This one is not about positive thinking. People think like, I'm going to pass, I'm going to pass, I'm going to pass. Well, let me tell you, you need positive thinking with positive action. They work together. They work together. People think that the more they know and that they are like, let's use the law of attraction. All of that is great. But you know what's missing is you need action behind it. If you don't have action, it doesn't do you any good. It's like they say knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. It's not until you put that knowledge to action that it actually does something. Same thing here. Mindset is a big part of it. So not only is it about like having the right positive attitude, but it's also having right action behind it, doing your part. When I teach a live classroom training throughout the entire week, I talk about doing your part, doing your part. You've got to do your part, and your part is doing the playbook, reading the playbook, right? Getting engaged in the playbook and reading the question with the right answer. All right, my favorite, we got to breathe. Oh my goodness. So this is like let me know here. What happens when someone is anxious or stressed? What happens to their breathing?
get stuck. You can breathe.
Faster, not even.
Yeah, not even. Some people, actually a lot of people hold their breath. They breathe, it's shallow. They're breathing from their chest. Where's the power of the breath come from? It comes from the belly, right? And so they say that 90% of the population have unhealthy breathing habits. So on its own, without even being stressed or having anxious, we already have unhealthy breathing habits. Isn't that crazy? So, and one of the things that affects your mind, body, spirit, all of it is the breath. You can remedy a lot of whatever's going on with you through the breath. And one of the fastest ways to shift your thinking and to shift your physiology is through the breath. It helps calm the nervous system. It takes you out of that fight, flight, or freeze and puts you into the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive function of the brain. And you make better choices. And most importantly, you're more resourced. meaning that you have access to more of that information that you already know or that you studied. Have you ever noticed, or have you ever been in a fight with somebody, or you get into an argument with somebody, and then the argument is over, and then you go back and you reflect, oh my goodness, I should have said this. Why didn't I say this? Right? Because one of my other teachers, Blair Singer, he says, when emotions are high, intelligence is low. So when you're in that heightened state, right, of like stress or fear, all of that common sense goes out the window, and your mind and your body just goes into survival mode. And it's either going to respond with a fight, flight, or freeze response. When students tell me, you know, I did everything you told me to do and I didn't see anything on the exam that you covered. And of course, you know, I listen to what they have to say. And then my next question is, were you stressed? What happened that day? What happened before you took the exam? And the reason I ask that is because it's virtually impossible for you to take the exam and not recognize anything that we covered unless you took the wrong exam. Because everything that we cover, everything that's in the pre-licensing program, everything's in our study material is based on the state's curriculum. And the state says, hey, schools, hey, people, here are your educational objectives. And the exam is based on these educational objectives. So everything we teach is based on those educational objectives that the Department of Insurance has told us are things that they're going to test you on. So what I know and what it reveals more to me about that person, and I even, if they're with me face to face, I can actually read their body as well to find out, okay, did they have stress? Because your body says a lot that you don't say, and helps me evaluate the person who took the exam and didn't pass. Right? And so again, a lot of times it goes back to what happened that they didn't recognize anything is that they went into freeze. They went into freeze and that they were stressed. And again, one of the ways to access that resourcefulness and getting into the parasympathetic system of the body where you're more relaxed is through the breath. So we're going to do that right now. Are you guys open to that? Let me show me by a show of hands. You guys ready for that? All right, cool. So go ahead and find yourself in a relaxed, seated position, pardon me, and put your feet flat on the ground. Around you a little bit. Hold on a second. I'm a little bit short, so I gotta pull my seat down a little bit. There we go. And go ahead and I invite you to close your eyes. Most of the stimulation that we have, that we get is through our eyes. They say 80% of the stimulation comes through the eyes. Go ahead and put your hands on your lap. Find yourself sitting upright, stacking one vertebrae on top of the other. If you don't know what that means, just visualize your back being aligned, your neck, slightly lifting your chin, and I invite you to close your eyes. And just notice what's going on in your body. And together, let's inhale through the nose, filling the belly like a big balloon from the bottom to the top. And then slowly exhale through the nose, just letting it all go and releasing from the belly. We'll inhale together, filling the belly like a big balloon from the bottom to the top. And then slowly exhale through the nose. Take one more breath together, inhaling through the nose, filling the belly like a big balloon, and then slowly exhale. There you go. And then when you're ready, go ahead and blink your eyes open. All right, how was that, Max?
That was good. I like meditating and stuff as well, so I can appreciate what it does for your body. And I feel 10 times better than I did 10 seconds ago. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
It makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I like the way you said 10 seconds ago, because it's that fast. It is really that fast, especially if you're
I was
practicing.
literally gonna say the same thing.
I like it. You guys are all in sync. That's wonderful. And notice just how easy that is, right? To just slow down, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. And that's really where we want to breathe from. Proper breathing is inhaling and exhaling through the nose. A lot of people breathe through their mouth or they hold their breath. And just simply inhaling and exhaling through the nose is already helping you relax your system and getting you into that parasympathetic system and relaxing you. And I mean, if you notice, you know, my tone of voice shifted, my energy shifted, and it will have the same effect on you. It will have the same effect on you. And the other thing too is when you're done and you have your license, I invite you to, this is kind of a plug, invite you to come and join our breathwork classes. We're going to start doing them on a weekly basis. I have a couple of teachers that I'm in training with. I've already done a few, actually, several hours of breathwork training, but I have friends that decided to take this last class with me, which I'm really excited about because I didn't want to commit to doing weekly breathwork classes and then be responsible to do them all. So now I have 2 friends that are going to join in the conversation. And so we're going to share the responsibility of doing this weekly because mental health is another affinity of mine besides education. And so this is just a really great way to keep, this kept me off of any type of anxiety pills in my 20s.
It's on Zoom too?
It's on Zoom as well. It's going to be a little bit later in the morning for you, Annie, but if you send me a text, I'll send you the Facebook page for that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. Build confidence, no parking allowed. Notice the puppy's stuck. He thinks he's stuck. He's parked there, right? But he's not. So this is a little, this is more of a trick, I think. And the trick is this. There's a couple of different schools of thoughts. I don't have a pen. Let me grab one. There's a couple of different schools of thought in regards to this strategy. And this is a strategy that I use. This is a strategy that I've had students send me emails and tell me this is a game changer for them. See, taking a paper exam and a computer exam is very different. They're not the same approach. And what I mean by that is if you're taking a paper exam and you don't know the answer, I would say, you know what, skip it. By skipping it, you can go back to it and then you'll have an accept question that might help you answer that question when it's on paper. Because you see, if it's on paper, I can compare the questions between the 2 pieces of paper, right? As I'm moving through the pages. But this exam is on computer. And when you're in front of a computer, it took a long time for me to get to PowerPoint. I'm like, no joke. I probably started using PowerPoint maybe a year or 2 ago. And it was up to maybe like 5 years ago that I stopped carrying this overhead projector into San Francisco to teach cram courses. I'm not kidding. It's the ones where you put the slides on it. Because when people are in front of a monitor, they go into TV mode. And TV mode is sleepy mode. It's inactive mode. It's in action, right? I mean, just think about it. How you feel when you veg out watching Netflix or Hulu or Prime or whatever you're watching, right? And so it just took me a long time to adopt this type of technology in the classroom because I'd notice people's eyes would glaze over. They're not as engaged. And so then that would require more of me to get you involved, right? And so, when you're in front of a computer, I just shared with you, right? I get like I get a headache. I can't sit in front of the computer for that long to take an exam. And I do get bored. And then if I get bored, then I get like reckless and I just want to get through the exam and I don't read anymore. Does that make sense? So it's really all about managing your state. And when you're going through the exam, if there's a question that you don't know, what do you do? What do you do? That's the question.
Next question.
Well, Celia, that's usually they'll tell you to skip it or to mark it, right? And I invite you to not skip or mark.
The clock.
Answer it with the best answer you have in that moment. Because your first answer is oftentimes the right answer. And then you have a piece of scratch paper and a pen, and you're going to write down the question number. Oh, it was question 20.
Mhm.
It was question 24. And so you'll keep a running list of the questions that you didn't know or you weren't sure of. I usually keep 2 lists, the ones that I totally didn't know, and then the ones that I wasn't sure of. And you're going to mark it and give it the best answer you have in that moment. And at the end of the exam, you're going to count them. And if you have 60, if you have less than 60, are you going to go back and change anything or go back and check them? No, why bother? You can miss how many? 60. You can miss 30, by the way, Max. Right? Now, what if there's more than 60? Are you going to go back?
Yeah.
No, why bother? You can't possibly miss all those questions. I mean, there's always a possibility, but why bother? What we're doing is we're tricking the unconscious mind. See, what happens is that when you have a question in front of you and then you skip it because you're going to go back to it later, you're still thinking about it. Because from an NLP, from a neuro-linguistic programming perspective, out of sight, out of mind. And the mind doesn't like ambiguity. How many of you like ambiguity? Nobody does. People like certainty. It's innate in our brain. It's the oldest part of the brain that we want to feel a sense of security and we want to know. People want to know. And even when they don't know, they pretend they know. Have you noticed that? So when you're going through the exam, it's important to, if you don't know it, you give it the best answer you had in that moment. And then you write down the question number and you move on to the next one. We're tricking the unconscious mind so that you can maintain fully resourced. So you're not still thinking about those 4, 5, or 6, or 10 questions that you skipped, but that you're moving forward. And at the end of the exam, if you really, really want to, there is a go-to function where you can click on the go-to and you can write the question. You can put the question number down. It'll take you right back to that question. But see, the cool thing is that you would have already answered it. I don't advise you to go back though. I can't tell you how many times students have shared with me, I did what you told me not to do. And what's that? Change your answer. And sure enough, guess what they did? They changed their answer. Your answer, your first answer is oftentimes the right answer. Do not, that's like the number one rule in test taking, right? It's to not change your answer. So move forward. All right. Do you have any questions about that and how that works? Yeah, if it was on paper, I would say skip it and then you can compare, right? Because then it's right there in front of you. But when you're on a computer, it's out of sight, out of mind. As soon as the question's out of the screen, you're subconsciously thinking about it, but you don't want to be thinking about it. You don't want to be thinking about it. You want to continue to move forward because questions hook the mind. What do questions do? They hook the mind, right? So if they hook the mind, you're still thinking about them. So resolve it, answer it, and move on to the next one. All right. Let's see. Words mean what they say. You got to keep it simple. This is another one. This is a tricky one because people want to put it from their perspective. People who have experience in the business actually have greater challenge in passing the exam than people who don't know anything about the business. You're in a much better position when you don't know anything than when you know something. Why? Because your thinking doesn't get in the way. You don't interpret it based on your experience. You're actually interpreting it based on the way it's meant to be interpreted, right? This test is an introduction to insurance test. If you know more, then you're going to read into all of the questions that they're asking you. So take things for face value. Do not overthink them. Words mean what they say. And one of the things that you'll notice is I'll even point out, look at the answers in the question. Because a lot of times the answer's in the question, you just have to pay attention. You just have to pay attention. All right. Break down long questions. What does this mean? You start at the end. You start at the end. Remember, it's one of those things I said, if you have a long paragraph question and you start from the top, when you get to the end, you forgot what you read and you're like, oh, what was the question again? What did it say? So if you read from the bottom up, a lot of times you just read the last sentence and that's the question. Do you have to read the rest of the question? No, because it's just extraneous information, what to throw you off. So you always start with the last sentence first because that's the question. And then if you need more information to answer it, then you know what you're looking for in the rest of the question. Does that make sense? My 10-year-old nephew, like he's around all of this because his mom teaches too, and was my sister. And so, you know, he told me, oh, Auntie, you don't have to help me anymore with these word problems. I'm like, oh, why is that? And he told me he looks for the question mark. I'm like, the question mark? Tell me more about that. He says, well, it's always at the end, just like you say. You say start at the end of the question, and that's where the question mark is. So I just look for the question. I like, notice how simplified he explains it, right? He just says, oh, Auntie, I just look for the question mark. You say start at the end, I look for the question mark. It also tells me that he's very visual, right? He's 15 now. He's a brat. He thinks he knows everything, but but when he was 10, he was very adorable. He's still like my little, I don't know. I think they're all my favorite. I've got like 4 nephews and 2 nieces. All right. This is another one of my favorites among all my other favorites, right? And that is, you got to trust yourself.
Yep.
You know more than you think you know, right? When you start thinking, that gets in your way. It gets in your way. As soon as you know the answer, you got to go for it. See, what happens is that we all have body wisdom, but we don't have that kind of neural connection to tell us, like, it's not like our body tells us things. Our body communicates to our mind through sensations and feelings and this gut feeling. And they've scientifically proven that the neurology we have in our brain is the same neurology we have in our heart and our gut. So when somebody says come from your heart or, you know, trust your gut, I mean, it's literally true that you can come from your heart and trust your gut because your body will process information that you don't process in your head. So, you know, I'm certified with Hatha yoga. I'm getting certified now for yin yoga, and yin yoga it slows down. It puts you in your body and you're actually literally holding the poses and yoga poses for like 3 to 10 minutes, depending on the yoga pose. Wow. And it allows your body to process whatever it is, and you don't need to know about it. So just last night, you know, I was in class last night and I was telling her that I did a pose a certain way by putting my forehead on the block. And I just started crying, like, oh my God, I just overcame with emotion. And I call yin yoga crying yoga anyways, but I didn't realize like what was there. And she told me, oh yeah, you know, that's in your head. You're literally telling yourself that you have to deal with this right now. Like you're facing it, right? And then I told her, and we have to, like, her as a teacher for her in certifying us, she wants to make sure that we have a relationship with the 26 poses in yin yoga. And so every week we try these poses out, and then we have to log in what we experience. And I told her what's really funny is that when I fold forward and I have my forehead on the block, the tears come. But when I twist and then I lean in and then I put my forehead on, I put my dangle on my head, right? Because that's where you do that pose. When you do the twist, I don't have any, I don't have that emotional experience. I don't have any crying. And she says, well, because when you're twisting, it's about processing whatever is there. When you come forward, you're facing it and you're dealing with it and you're triggering it with the by putting the pressure on the forehead. Again, I share that story with you more of like how we process information in our body and we're not even aware of it. Because even in the crying and in the tears coming, I have no idea what I was crying about, only that it was just an emotional release, right? So when you're moving through the exam, you're going to have like these body sensations. A lot of times we're so disconnected from our body, we don't even pay attention. I have a friend who got sick last year. They didn't know what was wrong with her. And I said, you know what? I'm going to advise you what I tell all my students in class. When you go into the doctor's office, I want you to exaggerate your symptoms. Like make them worse than what they are. Because we're so disconnected, she may have had these symptoms before she even recognized that she had them. And sure enough, she exaggerated the symptoms because she's a go, go, go kind of woman. She exaggerated the symptoms. They did all of the tests and they found out that she was pre-colon, like she had precancerous cells in her colon. And I know, right? She didn't even know it. I teach, even though I'm doing breathwork classes again now, I'm just deepening my learning. When we were prior to shelter in place, we would do breathwork before the live classroom training. I would offer that to students 2 days. They would come in the morning. And I had one woman, I just made a comment. I said, you're not really taking a deep, full breath. It's like something's stuck. I said, I would just continue practicing inhaling and exhaling through your nose. She was in my class in July. In November, she went to the doctors and they found a cyst in her lung. She didn't even know it was there. The only reason she went in is because she was going in for a checkup. And she said, I took this breathwork class and this teacher said this. And she sent me an email saying, thank you so much, because she would have never mentioned it and they would have never caught it had I not made a comment about that. So again, I can't emphasize this enough. And clearly somebody needs to hear this, because otherwise I don't usually put this much attention to the trusting yourself and trusting your body wisdom. You really got to trust your intuition. Okay. There's just a lot of messages there that
May I tell a little story really quick?
Go ahead, Annie, make it brief.
Okay, 4 years ago, 6 months at the doctor every month. I never go to the doctor, but I was sick. Oh, you have reflux, you have reflux.
Right.
I was pissed, was in a point that I went to the doctor. I made a scene, I exaggerate everything. Guess what I had? Colon cancer. I had surgery twice, 3 years ago. You have to learn, you have to know your body.
Yeah, you have to pay attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're I'm a survivor.
Oh, I don't even remember that shit. I'm great.
I love how you let it go. You're awesome. I'm going to visit you. I swear, when this whole thing is over, that's on my list. Go to Florida and visit Annie.
You have to.
I want to.
Otherwise, I'm going to keep taking your classes just to have fun here.
That's awesome. All right, accept questions. I didn't realize how we're past the 11:30 mark. So thank you for your patience and for staying on the line. This is recorded, so you can always go back to it, and I'll send it to you at the end of the day. Okay. So if you're in the class, I'll send it to you. So these accept questions, you got to pay attention. There's no way around this. Notice the Cookie Monster, right? If you ever watch Sesame Street, one of these things doesn't belong with the other. Do you guys remember that? Xavier, did you ever watch Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. So you're looking for the one that doesn't fit. And this is another game changer one that for students is that accept questions can be treated as true false statements. See, when you read the question, they say all of the following except, or which of the following is not. You're looking for the one that doesn't fit, and it's very, very counterintuitive because a lot of times people will read a question and they're looking for the right answer. But accept questions have 3 right answers. Which one is it? And so if you're impulsive about it, and you don't pay attention to that accept, you're going to go right to the first right answer you see without regard to the other answers where there's 2 other right answers as well. So there's 2 ways to approach this. You got to shift and you got to change the pattern, right? The way that you read a question. Meaning that if you read a question and then you notice the accept, I had one student, this is many, many years ago, so I share this in the cram course now, is that on his scratch paper, he wrote the word accept on his scratch paper. And every time he read a question that had accept, he would put a check mark next to the word accept to remind him that he's looking for the one that doesn't fit. He's looking for the one that doesn't belong. And actually a lot of students do this. That's how I get my feedback, where students say, oh yeah, I did that accept thing. And then when I was done, I counted the check marks and I had 40 accept questions, or they had 30 accept questions. Or they'll say, I didn't do it every single time, but for the most part, I got more than 20, something like that, right? So again, people know the information, it's just that they're not paying attention to what the question's asking. And that one word will change the answer. It will make it from the right answer to the wrong answer. It's very counterintuitive because we don't think like that. So like, Celia, what color is the sky?
Blue.
Okay, it's blue. What color is the sky, Xavier?
Oh, outside right now, it's gray.
Oh, it's
Gray.
gray.
Oh, you're in SoCal, Max. What's the color of the sky down there?
That's
Oh, the
great.
color here is gray, by the way.
That's great. Okay. How about you, Max? Are you gray down there? Or
I'm gray down here as well.
you're gray?
unfortunately.
Okay. I mean, we had like darkness in the middle of the day, right? A few weeks ago, and we had all that.
Yeah,
That was very apocalyptic,
Mm.
I'll tell you.
yeah, that was something different.
Right? So notice how nobody said it's not purple. No one says it's not yellow. And that's what the accept questions are asking. They're asking you for the negation, right? You have those contrarians that'll like answer questions like that, but we don't talk like that. And so you've got to pay attention. Otherwise, you're going to pay with the wrong answer. So make sure you notice the accept questions. This one's a good one too. Focus on key points in the familiar. Look for the right answer. You got to focus on key points. Anything that's not familiar is wrong. A lot of times what happens is that when students take the exam and they notice something that sounds familiar but is not exactly familiar, is that they say, oh, I didn't study enough. That's got to be the right answer. Have you ever noticed that? Notice how you read all the answers and you're like, oh, I don't know what this is. It's got to be that one. That's very counterintuitive. But it's not when you're taking the test. You think like, oh, I didn't study hard enough, right? You start to undermine your own thinking and second guess yourself. And they do that on purpose. They'll take 2 words that are very similar to each other. They put it in the exam as an answer, and then it's called a distractor. So I've had students call me or send me messages, hey, I saw this on my test. I've never heard of it. And then I'll ask them, okay, was that an answer or was that in the question? Oh, it was one of the answers. Oh, well, then it's the wrong answer because it doesn't mean anything. I've never heard of that before. And so again, anything that's not familiar is usually going to be a wrong answer. So make sure you stick with the familiar. Stick with what you recognize. Anything that you don't recognize is generally going to be the wrong answer. All right. And the other part I want to also tune your attention is on the last bullet there, match 2 or 3 words in the question that match 2 or 3 words in the answer. One of the things that you'll notice is that I'll give you keywords in the question. The strategy in this is to distill the question to 2 or 3 keywords and then to find the matching answer with 2 or 3 words matching in the answer, if that makes any sense. So again, it's a way of thinking. Distill the question to 2 or 3 words and then find the matching answer to that. It's like in communication. Nowadays, when people are communicating, people make every word mean something. And they don't take away the essence of the communication. Effective communicators listen, and they're listening for the essence of the communication without getting caught up in the words that are actually being used. Does that make sense? When you're reading text and you're reading the question, you're listening for the essence by looking for the 2 or 3 keywords in the answer, in the question, pardon me, and then finding the match in the answer. So again, you're distilling the 2 or 3 words in the question to find the match in the answer. All right. Don't get caught up in all of the words, because you get caught up in the words, you're going to start interpreting it in what you think. And that the Department of Insurance doesn't care what you think. It's about what they want you to know based on the context that they want you to know it. Does that make sense? All right. You know, I teach communication as well. I do that more with another company, and I don't usually bring it up in class except for this piece. There are inferential listeners and communicators, and there are literal listeners and communicators. So, for example, my nephew, I have a nephew, 2 nephews, same mom, 2 boys, they're 2 years apart. And I was just playing to test, because that's how I am. And I'm a very playful aunt anyways. And I just mentioned, oh, I'm cold. One nephew says, oh. The other nephew goes to his room and he brings me a blanket. What's the difference between the 2? Well, Aiden, I'm just going to say his name. Aiden is a very, very literal listener and communicator. So with him, I can't infer anything. I have to give him direct instructions, and I have to be very direct with him, but in a very kind way, because he's also very sensitive. Now, the other nephew is very, very just heart open, caring, very affectionate, is always hugging on me. And so, of course, when I say I'm cold, he's going to go get me a blanket, because he's an inferential listener. So we have inferential listener and communicator versus literal listener and communicator. And how that applies to test taking is you want to be a literal listener. You want to take things for face value. You don't want to infer anything. See, when you have knowledge, you start to infer things and add that type of inference into what you're making the question mean. Do not do that. That's why people who don't have any experience in the business do better, because they just take things literally. They don't read into anything. They don't have the knowledge to do that, right? So practice that. Practice being more of a literal listener when it comes to taking the test, all right? And then, of course, the last one is you got to celebrate. Celebrate good times. Come on. I really need to come up with a more updated celebration song, because I'm really dating myself with that one.
That's the best one.
So
The game is awesome.
I think so too, Kristen. But so with all of that being said, you know, I took a class. I'm always taking classes. I took a class this last weekend. And one of the things that I noticed as I'm getting older is that when I was younger, I would do things to avoid pain. So in the NLP world, we have like, are you an away motivator or are you a towards motivator? An away motivator does things to avoid pain. And when they avoid the pain and they finally remove that, the motivation is gone. So like, let's say somebody wants to lose weight. Well, I want to lose weight because I want to stop feeling bad about myself. That's a pain, right? I want to lose weight because I'm tired of looking bad. So those are all negative motivators. As soon as the pain is gone, what happens to that person that was on a trajectory of losing weight? They stop doing all the things that help them lose weight because the pain is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you have a motivation when I work with a client and I'm listening to their motivation, if they are that's an away motivation. If they are an away motivation, then that means something needs to be healed. But when you have a towards motivation, something of positivity, I want to lose weight because I want to feel good about myself. That's different than I don't want to feel good. I want to stop feeling bad about myself. Do you notice the difference?
Yeah.
Right? Because now I'm moving towards a positive experience. So this weekend I set some goals and I tested for my motivation behind the goals, and I'm like, oh, look at, I'm growing up. I have like these, towards motivations. I'm so excited. I don't have to call a friend to heal whatever these things are. So the reason I share that with you is seriously, like, this is a rite of passage for you. It really is. Like, you're either in a career transition, or this might be your encore career, or maybe you're getting a promotion of some sort, but this is your rite of passage, and you really want to honor it by celebrating whatever that celebration looks like to you. I work with small business owners, and one of the things that I find myself telling them a lot is that you have to let the win linger. If the win doesn't linger, it makes things meaningless. and you take for granted all of those little successes that you did because you think like, well, you know what, it was too easy. Or you know what, it's not a big deal. Everybody does it. It's a big deal because your life, you're a big deal. Your life is a big deal. You're investing your time, energy, and resources to do this. You know, Kristen's been at this. Can I share? You've been around for what, the last month and a half, 2 months with me? That's a big part of her mind share that's been in the back of her subconscious mind for the last couple of months. So the fact that she has the wherewithal to be here again with us because she wasn't able to take her exam, and the fact that she's putting attention to this again for the period of time that she's been putting attention to it is a big deal. You know, same thing with you, Max. I mean, you did the accident and health only exam. Now you're back to do the other part of it after doing the 52 hours. Like, that's a big deal, completion. People take completion for granted. But let me tell you, you set yourself apart when you complete things because most people start and don't finish. They say, I heard a statistic this last weekend that out of all of the books that are purchased, only 10% of the people who read the book get through the first chapter. Only 10% get through the first. That's ridiculous. There's a lot of self-help books out there that are just sitting on the shelf, right? So again, I mean, it's a big deal, and really celebrate whatever that is for you, whether you go for a walk, you know, go hug a tree, just something that symbolizes that you put the attention and the time to do this. Because when you accumulate these wins, you start feeling good about yourself. Oh,
What happened here?
She lost internet.
are you guys still there?
Yes.
Oh my God, that was awesome. My power went out and I had the cable in front of me to plug it in and I hadn't plugged
Gosh,
it in.
I miss her so much. I miss this girl.
Magic, I swear, like my computer is still connected to you guys. I was just pulling out the iPad to quickly log in. So I even forgot where I lost my train of thought. I guess we're complete right there. Just remember to celebrate you. It's 12 o'clock now. I need to get some email addresses here because I don't have them and it's gonna take me a minute to enter. So if you can just put in the chat box your email address, and then in the next 10 minutes, I will send you the test. And I'm gonna send the life only exam. So the
You
life
need mine?
only, pardon me? No, I
You
have
need
yours.
mine? Okay.
No, I have yours memorized at this point.
I know.
And I saved you in my email.
Email, text, whatever, you know.
So I'm gonna send the life only exam, and Annie, you're the only one. You don't have to do it, and then Celia, you don't have to do it either. Just read it. Just read it. And the reason I want you to read it is just so that you're familiar with you're starting to familiarize yourself with the language. Okay, and that just puts you in a better, even though you don't understand it. We're not gonna tune or don't put any attention to like whether or not you understand it, because it's not about that right now. We'll get into that when you come back to class on the 19th. Okay, Celia?
Okay. Okay.
All right, awesome. And then, but Max, definitely you take it. Kristen, I'd like for you to take it. And then Xavier, are you still? Yeah, there you are. Xavier, you definitely take it as well, okay?
Okay.
But I'm gonna email it to everybody who just put their email in the text. We're supposed to be back at 12:30, is that right?
5:30 here. Oh, Lord.
I
Is
think
that,
so.
you guys have this? Yeah, I think we're supposed to be back at 12:30. We're gonna do 1 o'clock instead. That way you get a full hour. An hour should be more than enough time to do the questions, all right? So there's this little thing that we do. Everybody, I'm gonna invite all of you to do it with us. I know Kristen and
Oh,
Annie
yeah.
are here with it.
I love
And
it.
Annie's getting ready.
I love it.
So, you know, there's different learning styles. One of them is kinesthetic learning. And so my way of engaging the body and having you engage the body is to do this thing to complete the session. So every time we complete a session, we do this thing called locking it in. So I'm going to demonstrate first. I'm going to give you instructions to inhale your hands up high to the sky, exhale, go this way, and notice the cue of the breath. Inhale back up, exhale, go the other way, inhale back up, and then exhale your hands. Oh no, bring your hands out in front of you, and then I'll go, let's lock it in for easy access at any time. This is a signal to the brain that we're taking a break, that whatever we talked about, you just let it sink in. Do not talk about it. It's just like letting it kind of simmer and letting your body just do whatever it needs to do with the information. And then we clap it to seal the session in. Everybody got that? So let's do this together. Inhale your hands up high to the sky, reaching for the stars. Awesome. Exhale, go this way. Inhale back up to the top. Exhale, go the other way. Inhale back up to the top. Bringing your hands out in front of you. Let's lock it in for easy access at any time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There you go. And I will see you all at 1 o'clock, and you should expect an email in the next 10 minutes, all right?